In this video, I'd like to give you an update concerning sacrifices that are coming closer and closer to the Temple Mount. And this is specifically a Passover sacrifice reenactment that has been happening in the past few years. In 2015, the reenactment was done 4 kilometers away from the Temple Mount. In 2016, it was done 1.5 kilometers away from the Temple Mount. In 2017, only 400 meters away, near the Temple Institute, the Passover sacrifice was done. And this year, 2018, it is going to be done in a new location approved by the Israeli police, only meters away from the Temple Mount. We know from the scriptures as Christians that there is coming a time when there will be an Antichrist figure who will put an end to sacrifice and offering in the temple. Now, in order for that to happen, there has to be a temple standing in the first place. There has to be sacrifices taking place. So I believe that these developments that we are seeing are prophetic. They are showing us that we're getting closer to the time described by Daniel the prophet. Jesus confirmed these words when he said, "When you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place." So I believe it is coming. Watch this space. Now, in 1948, the State of Israel was born, as we all know, but replacement theology caused the church to be caught by surprise, because the church, by and large, saw no future role for Israel. Those who taught about Israel perhaps assumed that they were still under a curse, and that God had no future destiny for the people of Israel. A few Christians and a few preachers could see from the scriptures that God had a plan and he would be bringing his people home to the land of Israel, but so many did not see, and they were caught by surprise, and they had to revise their theology, because the theology about God no longer having a plan for Israel was simply wrong, because God has brought his people back to the land just as he promised. So replacement theology blinded the church. They did not recognize what was happening, did not understand the signs that were coming together, and did not understand the significance of the moment when Israel was proclaimed a nation. Replacement Templeology is a term I have coined, and what I mean by that is a similar view that says that just as Israel had no future role in God's plan and purposes, so the temple has no future role in God's plan and purposes. Now, I believe this kind of view can cause the church again to be caught unaware and caught by surprise when developments happen in Jerusalem, happen in Israel concerning the third temple. I believe God has a plan for this site, and that we as a church have to be aware and be ready regarding it. Yes, we as Christians are temples of God individually, but that doesn't mean that we have replaced God's plan for the temple. Just like with Israel, God has a plan for Israel, and we as Christians also can receive from some of those promises, but that doesn't mean that we as a church has replaced Israel. So, we as a church being temples to God does not mean that we have replaced the temple of God in Jerusalem. Watch this space. It is holy ground unlike any other. There was only one place that God chose out of all of Israel from which they could worship him. And he says that my eyes will be open, my ears will be attentive to prayer made in this place. For now I have chosen and sanctified this house, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart will be there perpetually. Forever, I believe, means forever. Perpetually, I believe, means perpetually. I believe that God still has a special role for this place. We read in the New Testament how Jesus was zealous for the temple. He was passionate for it. He cleansed out what was not right in the temple because he said it was his Father's house. This despite the fact that the leaders at Jesus' time of the temple were corrupt. Many of them were teaching wrong things. Jesus did not then go down the road and say, hey, let's start another building. He continued to come back to the temple, continued to come to that place which was chosen by God. We see the early disciples doing the same thing. When Jesus was taken up to heaven, the disciples went back to the temple, glorifying and praising God. They went there for the hour of prayer. They went there and preached the gospel under the direction of angels in the book of Acts. They healed the sick there. And they prayed there. Paul the Apostle records being in a trance as he prayed at the site of the temple. So they saw the temple in their day as still being relevant to New Testament Christians even after the death, burial and resurrection of Jesus. And so I believe God still has a plan for that site. Yes, there might be something corrupt coming. Yes, as far as we understand from Scripture, there will be some kind of compromise surrounding this end times temple. Yet I believe God still has chosen that site. Why do I say that? Well, because if the enemy wants to place himself in the temple and he wants to defile it, he cannot defile it unless it is holy in the first place. There's no use in the enemy trying to defile something that is not holy, but it's only something that is genuinely holy can be defiled by the enemy. And so I believe this temple that is to come will be genuinely holy in the sight of God. And we as Christians have to be switched on and be alert ahead of time to what is happening, so we can watch the developments through the prophetic lens and be prepared for that day. Now, I have written a book called Rebuilding the Temple, covering topics like the preparations taking place to recreate the temple vessels, the use of DNA technology to identify priests of the Levitical lineage, the key role of the temple in Bible prophecy, a Jewish perspective on the abomination of desolation, Islam, Christianity and the temple in the end times, and how it all points to the Lord's soon return. And that is the core thrust of my message, is that we need to be ready for the Lord's return. So if you're interested in this book, I encourage you to get it. It is available at pastorenoch.com.au. Thank you, and God bless.